Hello guys, welcome back to Hey Manager Me Likes, and today we're going to go through the top 5 FM26 saves. In my opinion, a few journey saves, a few fallen giants, a few pretty decent rebuilds in all honesty. So let's see how we can do in this today. FM26 is around the corner. Then we go into the first team that we're going to be looking at. So here we have it. I've set out a nice little dashboard here of the teams that I'll be going through today. I'll be doing 5 teams, 5 different types of saves, I think, and it's going to be very interesting to see. Some of them I think, some of them you won't expect. There'll be a few like little nuances here and there, but I think today we'll go through these, and they're going to be good ideas. They're going to be good to get into FM26 and see how it can actually, perform across all different types of saves. Maybe we don't know. Maybe the Glory Hunters will be easier. Maybe the building it from League 2 will be harder. Who knows? Who knows? So anyway, today the first one we're going to go through is Nottingham Forest. Now Nottingham Forest have recently just sacked Nuno Espirito Santos. I think it's Nuno anyway, as we know him. He has now just been sacked, and Marinakis, the leader, as you can see there, or the owner, I call him a leader, he's more of a dictator in all honesty, has brought in Ange Postecoglou to try and do the business. I think for the Forest save, it would be great if you were to maybe even just, simulate 3 games in and then try and take over and see what happens. But as you can see here, Forest, they've got a pretty good side. They honestly do, and that last season, finishing 7th, they're going to be in the Conference League. It's going to be an interesting one. It's going to be a very interesting one. But for them, it's going to be good progression. Reputation-wise, they've got 3 stars there. The media prediction is 15th again this year. This is obviously from the updated database, so hopefully we'll see what happens there. Oh, they're in the Europa League. In fact, no, they're not in the Conference League, are they? That's Palace. They're in the Europa League, which is an even bigger jump. So, and now big for them, big movements forwards, and they've also brought in some good players too. You can see there the likes of Amari Hutchinson, Dan Ndoye, Kilimwendo, who's a brilliant player on FM from years ago. James McAtee again, also a great player. Quite a few young players they've brought in to try and bolster the side. On the right hand side, you can see though Murillo, who's just picked up an injury, unfortunately. Morgan Gibbs-White, who got forced at his own will almost to sign on. Dan Ndoye, who's come in, who's a great young player to come in. Then they've also got Milenkovic and Elliot Anderson. Elliot Anderson, by the way, is an absolute steal. I think he looks fantastic. So a few great players there. They've got good training facilities and good youth facilities. We don't know what the new FM will bring them. Only a 30,000 capacity stadium, so potentially more to come from that. Maybe expand the City Ground, which is one of the oldest stadiums in the Premier League. 1898 that was made. But Forest, their background is Europe, is football in Europe. They had, I think it was Bill Shankly or Brian Clough back in the day who was, doing really, really good things for Forest in the Champions League or the UEFA Cup back then. 1865, the year it was founded. So they've got a lot of history here, a lot of history. And the main thing I want to try and do with this is manage the finances. Now, the finances at Forest, they nearly got a deduction. I think they got a fine, I think it was. I can't remember if they actually got deducted points as well as Everton. I think they actually did get deducted points, Forest. So a few years on, they're doing well. They're in the top 7 last year. This year they look pretty okay. There've been a few heavy defeats so far. Big one lately against Tottenham, and before that against West Ham 3-0. But their main aim for this is to go deep into the Europa League, I think. Trying to set the side up to go deep into the Europa League, have a big squad, qualify for Europe again, and the main one is going to be satisfying Marinakis. Now, as we know, Forest at the moment have a pretty decent side. I reckon you could do pretty good things with this Forest side, but I think the main one is trying to get them to become the European giants that they can be. Trying to see what they can do in Europe, trying to get them back into the top 7, top 8 maybe, win a cup potentially, try and win something, it'd be brilliant. I think, to me, you want to try and see them do really, really well, and that's the main one for Forest. I think it's trying to just advance through the Europa League, manage finances, which is difficult in itself, and also got the top 7. So there's 3 key things to do in your first season at Forest, which is going to be big. So that's number 1. Number 2 we're going to go on to is actually Paris FC. A bit of a different dynamic, this one. Very strange dynamic, because they are playing over the road, literally over the road, from Paris Saint-Germain. We've got the fierce rivalry between the two. Now, Paris FC, they've got a bit of a wage budget. They've got a pretty sizable backing from their owner. Now, as you can see here, some of the players that they've got: Otavio, Sangui, Goebbels, Moses Simon. You can see on the right hand side they've actually brought those in there. The transfers that they brought in: Moses Simon, Goebbels, Otavio, and Jonathan Ikone. Some of the top players at the side at the moment. But This one's going to be a little bit different. This is going to be pretty much after getting promoted from the League 2, it is, as you can see on the right hand side, they finished second, so they got the automatic promotion. It's going to be interesting seeing the improvement they can make. So improving that reputation is going to be a big one. Trying to get big free agents in, trying to improve the facilities. You want to try and get big facilities excellent facilities, should I say, not big, excellent facilities going for them, and developing youth in the academy. I think that's going to be the main one, trying to get some French players through to sell them on. And the main aim is to try and stay in League 1 as long as you can, trying to avoid any sort of, administration budgets that might cause a problem, but the relegation side of things, trying to play against these bigger sides that are going to have big name players, but bringing in and playing a style of football that really lets you basically stay in the league and have a bolster that defence. That's the fun. I think that'll be the fun of it. And of course, they've got a big financial backing, so I think in the next FM26, you'll see a lot of wage budget, a lot of money to spend. I think you need to try and, in the League 1, I think it works that over, you have to spend a certain amount of money, because then in the next year you can only spend half of that. So you can spend up to double that, so it's a progressive amount of money that you can spend more and more and more year on year on year. So trying to establish that, trying to make that happen. I wonder if they'll have those financial rules in play. It'll be interesting to see in FM26. But the main one for this one is surviving the drop, and then also trying to develop the youth academy, improving facilities and building the club up, because they're a relatively new club, founded in 1969. But they're going to struggle because there are some big teams now in the League 1. So that's Paris FC for you. Next up, we've got Real Oviedo. Spencer FC back in the day when I used to watch YouTube as a kid. This was the team. This was the big team, and they've been promoted last year. They were in the playoffs from the Serie B, the Liga B, I think it is, or the league. I can't remember what the second. It's not the Segunda. I can't remember what it's called, but the second league in Spain. They've managed to bring in a few interesting players. I won't lie to you. They've brought in a few interesting ones. But the main one for this one is managing the wage budget, because they don't have the financial backing. That's the issue. They do not have a financial backing. They're trying to bring in players that are quite cheap still. So the main one is trying to keep the main wage budget as best as it can be. Survive the La Liga again, the relegation battle. So you're facing but unlike Paris FC, you've got a wage restriction essentially. But the main one for me with this team is, you can see here they've brought in some big name players here. You can see on the left hand side the likes of Eric Bailly, Don Decker, Bricalo, those types of players. That's La Liga 2 it's called. But on the right hand side you can see there's only one Spanish player, Javi Lopez there, 23, I think he's on loan. They're the type of players where you want to start bringing through a bit more Spanish youth. So this save will be establishing greater youth facilities, greater youth recruitment, and challenging the La Masia type of a system. So you want to try and knock Barcelona off its perch, bring through as much talent as you can through that Spanish recruitment drive. So getting the Spanish scouts in so they can find the youngsters, getting a great youth development and the youth coaches, really building that youth facilities, that youth culture through, and building a bigger and better youth development system than Barcelona, to allow you to have as many Spanish players from a young age coming through, and then either selling them on for profit, or, because again, managing the wage structure at Oviedo is going to be a big problem, but also allowing yourself to get some great Spanish players into the squad and seeing out the likes of your Belgian players, Portuguese, Argentinian, Italian, Croatian players that are all there at the moment. You want to try and establish that to an end and bring in as many Spanish players as you can to push that side forward. So Oviedo, a nice interesting one. They're going to be very tricky, incredibly tricky with their wage restrictions, but a great save nonetheless. So next up, Ajax, a fallen giant. This is the fallen giant one, and this one I think makes it a bit more interesting to try and go deep into the Champions League. So we know Ajax, founded in 1900, very big, very big club. But for the last 4 years, only since Erik ten Hag left in the 21-22 season, they have not really done much. They've not won the league. They had a years of domination. I think Erik ten Hag won it 3 or 4 times in a row. I think now what's going to try and be the trend is, obviously, I think we had PSV winning it one year, Feyenoord winning it another. I want to try and what you want to try and do in this save is try and get them back to being that dominant side. Now they've had lots of outs. Jurien Timber in the last year. Hato has left. Wrench has left. A lot of players have left Ajax. Not a lot of established like Dutch players are coming through. The young players that we saw from years ago, like your De Ligt, Donny van der Beeks, Frankie de Jongs, players like that. You're not seeing anything like that now. It's a very, very older side, and it's worrying. It is worrying to me. So the challenges for this one is to get them back dominating the Eredivisie. You want to try and get them back in there because you can see last year PSV beat them by 1 point. They finished second and beat them by 1 point. A very, very poor end to last season. 2 losses, 2 draws, 1 win. PSV with 5 wins to actually see them off. 103 goals for PSV, only 67 for Ajax. So as you can see there, the firing power has just left them. But you want to try and dominate that. I think the main one for this one as well would be creating a nice tactic, creating a new tactic which sort of takes the game by storm, rebranding total football as I'm calling it there. You want to try and get that reputation up from the 4-star to the 5-star to try and attract these players in, because at the moment they're struggling. You're seeing the likes of Oscar Gluck, who's come through from Salzburg in the Bundesliga, or the Austrian Bundesliga that is. 21 years of age, he looks very good. He's going to be a great star for them. Raul Morro, not too okay with him, but again, players like Kasper Dolberg coming back, and I think he played for them years ago as a centre forward, not brilliant. And then Juri Herkins, again a youngster from who's Dutch/Czech Republic, but Sparta Prague, you're not going to get big players from there. So on the right hand side, you can see here Kenneth Taylor's going to be there for years. I think they've got Mokio, I think his name is, who's like the Belgian/Dutch player who looks fantastic at 17 years of age. Those two are going to be leading lines. Oscar Gluck. Sotalo looks very nice player as well. Kasper Dolberg for your first season. It looks a decent squad, but again, trying to bring through youth facilities, youth recruitment, use the money because they're going to be very rich now. The Anthony deal, we've seen massive deals coming out of there, like Martinez as well, that was at United. Huge deals coming out of Ajax. There should be money to invest in either youth, in younger players, in wonder kids, bring them through, try and get there. And then the main thing is to try and get them another Champions League. They won the Champions League years ago. Let's see what you can do with them going forwards. That's the main one for me anyway. Now then, the final one, I'm going to have to look at how to pronounce their name yet again because I actually can't remember myself. It is US Salernitana. 1919 it is. One of the oldest teams in the it was the Serie A years ago. Now they're actually in the Serie C, the Serie C, Serie CC, should we call it, the SCC. So I'll just quickly show you, if we can go onto the graphic here. You can see just very quickly in that in the league, you can see that they finished. I can't actually see it myself anymore. I need to zoom in. My eyes are deceiving me. They are finishing 16th. They lost in the playoffs, so they did get relegated from the Serie B. So they are now in the Serie C. So they've gone into this. There's 3 different divisions within the Serie C. There's A, B, and C. They're in the Serie CC. So let's not try and get that too confusing. But either way, the main thing with this is I want you to try and pick a side or pick a team, and it was between 2 teams. It was going to be this one. I can't remember how to say the name again. Salernitana. It was Salernitana or Cambridge United. And the main reason being is I want you to try and find a team where you wouldn't buy players from a database, from your scouts, from anything like that. It was going to be purely Moneyball type signing. So looking at data science, looking at the stats, and only buying players based on that. Now, FM have tried to do a drive in the past with the data hub with all this sort of bits going on. I think it'd be very interesting to try and get those recruitment scientists, recruitment performance, and what's the other one as well? I can't remember. Performance analysis and recruitment analysts as well as your data scientists, to try and lead you into signing data-led signings. So for me, if I was to be doing this save, I would be sacking all my scouts, getting rid of all them, trying to improve my training and youth facilities as much as I can. Youth recruitment will be major. That's a major one for me. And then trying to bring in signings that you look at them, you're only looking at stats, you're looking at, like, you know, the stats from the leagues, you can scout leagues, that's the main one. You're going to have to try and get your data analysts to understand the leagues more so than the actual players. I won't be asking them to give me players, I'd be wanting them to look at the data science, looking at that, and giving me players to sign based on that basis. So, getting rid of scouts, getting in all your data analysts and your those type of staff roles, and then looking at trying to get them back to the Serie A, because they were massive. They were a big team 2 years ago. They were in the Serie A. They got relegated to the Serie B, and also then relegated back to back to the Serie C. So, you know, years ago, you're looking at Frank Ribery played for them. I think if I just have a look at the other players that played for them, they had Gattuso years ago. Piatek was the big name when they were in the Serie A. They had Ochoa, the Mexican goalkeeper that played for them. They had some pretty big players that played for them. But now they are a smaller side. So for me, you want to try and see them getting back to the Serie A. This is going to be a long-term save using a bit more of a different way. This is where the story sort of comes into light, where you see a player in the Serie C, Serie B, who looks really good. Can you maybe, because you've got the 30,000 capacity stadium, you've got a bit of money behind you, you're financially secure, can you tout them to come in? Look, we're going to get promoted next year. Here's a bit of a bigger wage, play for us based on the data. Looking at youngsters, looking at players that maybe don't fit in elsewhere, that are on the transfer list. Maybe free agents as well, that you think, you know, in certain areas like tackling, they're going to be the best player to put at centre-back because the tackling is not great. Analysing your team, looking at where the weaknesses are, filling them with data-driven signings. That's the main one for this one. This is what I wanted to do. Cambridge United would be a great one as well. They're in League 2, I believe they are. Currently had a rebrand, great colour scheme. And also, if you just look at this colour scheme for Salernitana, they look brilliant. And the actual look at the... If you get into that sort of thing where you're definitely going to get into the saves in your football clubs that you're going to be managing in FM, you're going to look at the stadium and think, right, you know, you can see it. It looks brilliant. It looks great. The mountains in the background, they're just off the coast. It's a lovely stadium to be looking at. And I think, to me, it looks fantastic. And maybe even winning the cup along the way. You can see they've not got that many great players, but that's where you want to be looking at. This is what you want from a sort of building it up from nothing team. It's going to be difficult, but leading it with data will make it even more interesting, I think. That's my honest opinion. So there we have it. I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did as ever, please leave a like, subscribe if you are new. Hopefully that's given you a few more ideas as to what different saves you can do in FM26, driven off that. Hope you did enjoy this. If you did as ever, leave a like and subscribe. 309 sub-managers at the time of recording. Thank you guys for subscribing. And I'm going to be giving you a few details on my plans for FM26 coming up and what saves you can look forward to from me. So thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. From me, Alex. Have a great day. Ciao.